I bet you have wondered about the ideal rep range for muscle growth. You have probably heard conflicting advice: lift heavy for 5 reps or go light for 20. It is a common puzzle, and getting it right can significantly impact your gym progress. What if you understood the true science behind building muscle by the end of this video? We are going to demystify hypertrophy, breaking down why some approaches work incredibly well, while others, despite intense effort, fall short. Okay, picture this. Building muscle is not just about tearing muscle fibers. It is a precise biological dance involving 3 main signals that tell your body, hey, we need to get stronger and bigger. Understanding these signals is the secret behind optimizing your training. Most people focus on just one aspect, but real gains come from hitting all 3 in the right balance. Let me unpack these for you really quickly. Let us begin with the first pillar, mechanical tension. This is arguably the most crucial stimulus for muscle growth. It is the force your muscles generate against resistance. Think of it as the stretch and squeeze under load. The higher the tension, the more your muscle fibers are recruited and forced to adapt. This leads to a cascade of cellular responses that ultimately tell your muscles to grow thicker and stronger. It is the primary driver. The key is exposing your muscle fibers to significant tension for a sufficient duration. It is not just about how heavy the weight is, but how long your muscles are under that load and how intensely they contract. This continuous tension signals to your body that your current muscle size is not cutting it. It needs to lay down new proteins and expand existing ones to cope with the demand. This is the foundation. Next up, we have muscle damage. This is the microscopic tears that occur in your muscle fibers during intense exercise. It is what often causes delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. While it contributes to muscle growth, it is not the primary mechanism, despite popular belief. Some damage is necessary as the repair process involves remodeling and strengthening the muscle, but too much can actually hinder recovery and progress. It is a fine line. Muscle damage is not the goal itself, but rather a byproduct of effective training, particularly when muscles are stressed under load or when you are performing eccentric movements, the lowering phase of a lift. The repair process is what strengthens the muscle, but simply causing soreness does not guarantee growth. Focus on proper form and controlled movements to elicit beneficial damage without overdoing it. Taking it further, we also need to consider other factors. The third stimulus is metabolic stress. This is often described as the pump you feel during and after a set. It is the accumulation of metabolic byproducts like lactate, hydrogen ions, and inorganic phosphate in the muscle, coupled with cell swelling. This stress signals to the muscle that it is working hard and needs more energy production capacity. Think about that burning sensation during high-rep sets. That is metabolic stress at play. It is the big reveal. While metabolic stress does not directly build muscle like mechanical tension, it creates an environment conducive to growth. The cell swelling, for instance, can trigger anabolic signaling pathways, leading to increased protein synthesis. It also causes fatigue, forcing more muscle fibers to be recruited over the course of a set. Ultimately, it complements mechanical tension, contributing to a more comprehensive growth stimulus. This leads to something interesting. So, to maximize hypertrophy, we need to hit all 3: robust mechanical tension, a degree of muscle damage, and significant metabolic stress. Now, how does this translate to the rep ranges we use in the gym? This is where the sweet spot comes into play. It is about finding the balance that optimally triggers all these pathways without overstressing one at the expense of another. Let us see where this takes us. The generally accepted ideal rep range for hypertrophy is often cited as 6 to 15 repetitions. Why this specific range? Because it is the sweet spot that allows you to achieve a potent combination of all 3 hypertrophy stimuli. You are lifting heavy enough to generate high mechanical tension, but light enough to perform enough reps for sufficient time under tension, leading to some muscle damage and significant metabolic stress. It is a balanced approach. Within this range, you can maintain good form, ensuring the target muscle is doing the work. The total volume, meaning sets times reps times weight, also tends to be high in this range, which is critical for growth. Think about it. Lifting heavy for 8 reps gives you solid tension and a good pump, whereas 12 reps might lean more into metabolic stress but still provide decent tension. It is about effective work. What happens next is crucial: effective reps. These are the last few repetitions in a set, typically within 5 reps of failure, where muscle fiber recruitment is maximized and the stimulus for growth is highest. When you are lifting in the 6-5 rep range, you naturally accumulate more effective reps per set compared to very low or very high rep schemes, assuming you train with intensity. This is where it all comes together. Consider how training to near failure in this 6-5 rep bracket forces almost all available muscle fibers to engage, especially the fast-twitch fibers with the highest growth potential. This ensures you are sending the strongest possible signal to your body to adapt and grow. The combination of tension, fatigue, and cellular swelling creates an optimal environment for protein synthesis and subsequent muscle hypertrophy. It is the foundation for gains, so the 6-1-5 rep range acts as a sweet spot. It is heavy enough to elicit significant mechanical tension, provides enough time under tension for some muscle damage, and generates substantial metabolic stress. This balanced approach ensures you are not neglecting any of the key drivers for muscle growth. Ultimately, this range is where most individuals will see the best results for muscle size increase. Let us dive into why other ranges are not as optimal. Now, let us look at the first scenario mentioned: lifting 2 reps to failure, taking a 10-minute break, and repeating. While lifting very heavy for 2 reps definitely provides immense mechanical tension, which is great for strength, it falls short for hypertrophy. The total time your muscles are under tension is extremely brief. This limits both muscle damage accumulation and, especially, metabolic stress. What is fascinating is how this affects growth. When you only perform 2 reps, even to failure, the total volume for that set is very low. You are not accumulating enough work to signal significant adaptation for growth. While you are activating high-threshold motor units due to the heavy load, the muscle is not sustained under tension long enough to create the cascade of growth signals associated with longer sets. The foundation is there for strength, but not for size. This type of training primarily targets neurological adaptations, making you more efficient at recruiting existing muscle fibers to move heavy loads. It builds strength effectively. However, it is not the most efficient pathway for increasing the actual size of those muscle fibers. For hypertrophy, you need a greater overall volume of work and a more sustained period of tension and metabolic buildup. The process begins with different signals. Adding to that, the 10-minute break between sets further reduces the hypertrophy stimulus. With such a long rest, your muscles almost completely recover between sets. This prevents the cumulative fatigue and metabolic stress that are key drivers for growth. You are essentially starting fresh each time, negating the progressive buildup of metabolic byproducts that we discussed earlier. The full picture shows a different outcome. While short, intense bursts of effort are great for power and strength, for hypertrophy, you want to maintain a certain level of fatigue and metabolic stress across your workout. The 10-minute break allows your body to clear out those growth signaling byproducts. This approach, while effective for strength, is simply not hitting all the necessary checkboxes for optimal muscle growth. The key is understanding the balance. To put it simply, while 2 reps to failure certainly provides high mechanical tension, it utterly fails to deliver sufficient muscle damage or metabolic stress, especially with extended rest periods. It is a strength-building protocol, not an efficient hypertrophy protocol. If you remember one thing, it is that hypertrophy thrives on a balance of stimuli, which this method does not provide. This changed how I see strength training. Now let us switch gears to the other scenario: lifting lightweight to failure, then taking only a 30-second rest and repeating. This approach clearly prioritizes metabolic stress and muscular endurance. That burning sensation and the incredible pump will be intense, but it often comes at the cost of sufficient mechanical tension. The lightest weight means the force production against the resistance is lower. What emerges is a different kind of adaptation, While light weights taken to failure can certainly elicit some hypertrophy, it is generally less efficient than moderate weights. The low mechanical tension means fewer high-threshold motor units are recruited until very late in the set, if at all when fatigue sets in. Your muscles are not being forced to generate maximum force per contraction, which is critical for signaling significant growth. This leads to a different kind of challenge. The 30-second rest period, on the other hand, is extremely short. This maximizes metabolic stress and accumulates fatigue rapidly. While this sounds good for the pump, it severely limits your ability to maintain quality repetitions and sufficient mechanical tension across subsequent sets. Your muscles and nervous system simply do not have enough time to recover, leading to diminished performance and potentially compromised form. The key is balance. Think about it. After just 30 seconds, your energy systems, particularly those involved in anaerobic glycolysis, have not fully replenished. This means your subsequent sets will be performed with significantly reduced strength and power. The goal shifts from effective tension and volume to simply surviving the set, often at the expense of proper muscle activation and tension. This takes us to an important point about quality. This method primarily trains muscular endurance, improving your muscles' ability to resist fatigue and perform repeated contractions. While some hypertrophy can occur, it is not targeting the high-tension, high-force stimuli that are most potent for increasing muscle fiber size. You are building endurance, not necessarily maximizing muscle growth. The outcome is often less effective for pure hypertrophy. Ultimately, the lightweight, short-rest approach emphasizes quantity over quality of contractions. While the pump feels great, it is not the sole indicator of effective muscle growth. You are missing out on the significant mechanical tension needed to maximally stimulate those fast-twitch muscle fibers that have the greatest potential for hypertrophy. This is not the most efficient way to achieve significant muscle gain. The final piece of the puzzle is crucial. To understand this, let us talk about training to failure. What does it actually mean? It means performing reps until you cannot complete another full repetition with good form. This is typically concentric failure. While not every set needs to be taken to absolute failure, training close to it is critical. It ensures you are recruiting the maximum number of muscle fibers and applying the necessary stimulus for growth. The conclusion? It is important. Training to failure, or very close to it, e.g., 12 reps in reserve, or RIR, ensures that you are pushing your muscles hard enough to trigger those adaptive responses. If you consistently stop sets too far from failure, you are leaving growth potential on the table. The body will not adapt if it is not sufficiently challenged. This is where most people fall short in their training, even with the right rep range. It all comes down to intensity. Expanding from that, consistently challenging your muscles close to their limit sends a powerful signal for growth. Whether that is in a 6-rep set or a 15-rep set, the final reps, the effective reps, are key. They are the ones where the effort is highest and muscle fiber recruitment is maximized. Without pushing into that challenging zone, you are not fully stimulating the muscle. In the end, consistency is key. The core idea is that training to failure, or close to it within the optimal rep range, provides the perfect balance of mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and a reasonable degree of muscle damage. It maximizes the number of effective reps, ensuring you are getting the most bang for your buck in terms of hypertrophy stimulus. It is about working smarter and harder, not just one or the other. This leads to the next vital component. What is fascinating is how paramount progressive overload is, regardless of your chosen rep range. This means continually challenging your muscles by increasing the weight, reps, sets, or decreasing rest times over time. Your body adapts quickly, so if you are not consistently providing a new, harder stimulus, your growth will plateau. The foundation is always challenging yourself. This leads to the ultimate insight. Building on that, in the 6-5 rep range, progressive overload means gradually increasing the weight while keeping your reps in that target zone. Once you can comfortably hit 15 reps with good form, it is time to increase the weight and work your way up to 15 reps again. This continuous cycle ensures your muscles are always receiving a novel and challenging stimulus, preventing stagnation. This is where we land. Consistency is not just showing up. It is consistently applying the right principles over the long term. Randomly jumping between extreme training protocols or neglecting progressive overload will yield inconsistent results. Adherence to a well-structured program that emphasizes the optimal rep range, training intensity, and progressive overload is the true path to sustainable muscle growth. Think about the big picture. The body is an amazing adaptive machine. It will always seek to become more efficient at whatever stimulus you provide. If you primarily lift for 2 reps, it adapts by becoming stronger. If you primarily lift light for many reps, it adapts by becoming more enduring. For muscle size, you need to trick it into believing it needs bigger muscles to handle the varied demands of the 6-5 rep range. Evolving from that, it responds precisely. Tracking your progress, weights, reps, sets is vital. It is how you'll ensure you are actually applying progressive overload and not just guessing. A simple training log can be your best friend. What we discover is that small, consistent increases over time lead to massive gains in the long run. Do not underestimate the power of meticulous planning and execution. It is the ultimate insight for success. While there is a general ideal rep range, it is important to remember that no one-size-fits-all approach perfectly suits everyone. Individual differences in genetics, training experience, and muscle fiber type distribution can slightly shift what feels most effective. However, the underlying principles of mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage remain universal. Consider how these principles apply broadly. Beginners might see results with a wider variety of approaches simply because any new stimulus is effective. But for intermediate and advanced lifters, adhering more closely to the 6-5 rep range becomes increasingly important for continued progress. Their bodies are already adapted, requiring a more precise and potent stimulus to trigger further growth. Developing this idea further shows its importance. Some lifters also benefit from periodization, where they strategically vary their rep ranges and training intensity over time. For example, spending blocks focusing on strength lower reps and then blocks on hypertrophy moderate reps can provide novel stimuli and prevent plateaus. This cyclical approach can be very effective for advanced athletes, but the hypertrophy phase will still rely heavily on the 6-1-5 rep sweet spot. The conclusion is clear, so the big picture? The ideal rep range for muscle growth or hypertrophy primarily lies in the 6-1-5 repetition zone. This range offers the optimal balance of mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress, the 3 crucial stimuli for increasing muscle size. It is about working your muscles intensely enough to trigger all these pathways effectively. What this boils down to is a comprehensive approach. The main thing to remember is that extreme approaches like 2 reps with long rest or lightweight with very short rest miss out on critical components. The 2-rep failure strategy, while great for strength, lacks sufficient volume and metabolic stress. The lightweight, short rest method generates huge metabolic stress, but often at the expense of enough mechanical tension and quality reps. Aim for the balanced middle ground. The core idea is strategy.